You said you'd start tomorrow. And tomorrow came and you didn't. Not because you forgot, because the moment arrived and something in you negotiated. Just one more day. After this week settles, when I am more ready. If you can't keep a promise to yourself when no one's watching, you don't have discipline, you have intentions. Here is what nobody's telling you. The gap between what you say you'll do and what you actually do is not a motivation problem. It is an identity problem. You think discipline is effort. It is not. It is honesty. By the way, this isn't about working harder. Hard work without self-honesty is just sophisticated self-deception. What I am going to show you is how brutal clarity creates unbreakable discipline. Miyamoto Musashi wrote the Book of 5 Rings after 60 duels to the death. Not one loss. Not because he was stronger, because he refused every comfortable lie. By the end, you'll face one uncomfortable truth tomorrow. Admit one way you've been deceiving yourself. Act despite one rationalization you usually obey, and you'll feel what discipline actually requires. In the next 10 minutes, I am going to show you the 5 battles that forge discipline and why you keep losing them. If this already feels necessary, you belong here. Consider subscribing and walk this path with the Last Ronin. You set a standard this week, small one, personal commitment. I am going to work out every morning. I am not touching my phone for the first hour. I am finishing this project before the weekend. And you meant it genuinely. But then the moment came. Alarm goes off. Body says, just 10 more minutes. You agree. Work time arrives. Mind says, check your messages first, just quickly. You comply. Deadline approaches. Brain says, you need to be fresh for this. Start tomorrow. You accept. Notice how automatic that negotiation was. You've been breaking promises to yourself for so long you think internal negotiation is normal decision-making. This afternoon you have another commitment, something you decided yesterday. And right now, part of you is already preparing the excuse for why today isn't the right day. It is already forming, not in full sentences yet, just the beginning of a rationalization. I am too tired. Circumstances changed. I'll do it tomorrow when I am in a better state, and you'll believe it. The lie feels reasonable, but here is what is actually happening. Every time you negotiate with yourself, you are training weakness. Not just failing at the task, training your nervous system that your word to yourself is optional, that your commitments have escape clauses, that your standards can be lowered the moment they become uncomfortable. Right now, you think you are being flexible, adaptive, listening to your body, being realistic. But Musashi would see something different. Defeat, not in battle. In the moment before battle, this is the mechanism that keeps you undisciplined. You are not losing to external obstacles. You are losing to internal negotiation. The voice that sounds like wisdom, be kind to yourself. The thought that feels like strategy, wait for better conditions. The rationalization that appears reasonable, you need to be ready first. All of it is the same pattern, avoidance disguised as prudence. And you've been calling it self-awareness. It is not self-awareness. It is self-deception running on autopilot. And every day you practice it, discipline becomes less accessible. Your capability isn't the problem. You've trained yourself to negotiate out of discomfort the moment it appears. This is where you get stuck. Miyamoto Musashi fought 60 duels, every one to the death, and never lost. Not because he was the strongest warrior, because he refused to lie to himself about reality. That is the first principle. Earth, the foundation of all discipline, brutal honesty about what is actually happening. This is where most men misunderstand discipline. They think it is about motivation. It is about facing reality without flinching. Musashi didn't enter battle thinking about how he wished things were. He looked at exactly what was in front of him. His opponent's stance, his own energy, the terrain, the light. No story, no rationalization, just reality. Right now you are doing the opposite. You are managing your self-image instead of observing your behavior. You tell yourself you are disciplined because you have intentions. But intentions without execution are fantasies. You tell yourself you are making progress because you are thinking about improvement, but thinking about change is not changing. You tell yourself you'll start when you are ready. But ready never comes, because ready is a feeling, and feelings are managed by comfort. The Last Ronin understood what Musashi taught. Discipline begins with one unbearable truth. You are exactly as disciplined as your behavior reveals. Not your intentions, your actions, not your plans, your execution, not your thoughts about tomorrow. What you did today, and when you look at today honestly, without the story, without the excuse, without the plan to do better, what do you see? Probably the same pattern you saw yesterday, the same negotiation, the same comfort, seeking, the same gap between what you said and what you did. That is not a bad day, that is your current identity. And until you face it without cushioning the truth, discipline is impossible. Because you can't build on a foundation of lies. If this is already naming something you feel, stay with me, because in 2 minutes, I am going to show you why your discipline keeps failing the same way. You've been trying to build discipline while avoiding discomfort. But discomfort is the entire mechanism. Your brain is designed to avoid pain. Not because you are weak, because that is how nervous systems work. Discomfort arrives, brain generates escape. This kept you alive for millennia. But now there is no actual threat, just the discomfort of discipline, and your brain can't tell the difference. So it generates the same escape response. Watch what happens. You set an alarm to wake up early. Alarm goes off. Body, discomfort. Brain, immediately. You didn't sleep well. You need rest. This is self-care. Your leaf, you hit snooze. But you didn't rest, you negotiated. You decide to work on something difficult. Work begins. Mind, discomfort. Brain, immediately. You need to check if anything urgent came in first, just quickly. Your leaf, you switch tasks. But you didn't address urgency. You escaped difficulty. You commit to a standard, moment arrives. System, discomfort. Brain, immediately, tomorrow is better. You'll be more ready, this is strategic. Relief, you defer. But you didn't strategize, you avoided. This happened to you 3 times today already. And every time, the escape felt reasonable. That is the mechanism. Your brain doesn't say, avoid this because it is uncomfortable. It says, avoid this because of this very logical reason. And the reason always sounds good: rest, efficiency, strategy, self-care, realism. All of it might even be partially true. But truth isn't why you are choosing it. Comfort is discomfort, triggered escape. Your brain just dressed the escape in reasonable clothing. Musashi called this the second principle, water. The ability to flow and adapt without being controlled by resistance. Water doesn't fight the rock, but it doesn't avoid the rock either. It moves around, through, over, always, forward, never stopped. You are not water. You are stopping the moment you feel resistance, and calling it wisdom. This is why you can understand discipline intellectually and remain completely undisciplined behaviorally. You know what you should do, but the moment discomfort arrives, your brain generates a reason to defer, and you trust the reason instead of recognizing the pattern. So discipline never builds, because you are negotiating out of every moment that would build it. Stay with me. This changes how tomorrow works. Here is what Musashi understood that you refuse to accept. Discipline is not built by doing what feels right. It is built by doing what you said you'd do regardless of how it feels. That is the foundation, not motivation. Commitment kept, even when, especially when, every part of you wants to negotiate. Here is the law: do what you said. When you said, no negotiation, not when you are ready. When you committed, not when conditions improve. When the moment arrives, not when you feel like it. When you decided to, the decision was already made. The moment is just execution. This is the shift that creates discipline. You can't do this yet because you are still treating commitments as preferences. Things you'll do if they still feel good when the moment comes. Things you'll execute if resistance is manageable. Things you'll follow through on if nothing better appears. But that is not commitment. That is intention with an escape clause. Musashi trained differently. He decided once, then executed without reconsidering. The decision was already made. Reconsidering was not an option. The moment arrives. The action happens. No negotiation. This is the third principle. Fire, controlled intensity. Weaponized emotion. When resistance appears, you don't negotiate with it. You burn through it. Not with rage, with precision. The alarm goes off. Discomfort arrives. Fire. You move before the negotiation starts. Difficult work appears. Resistance builds. Fire. You engage before the excuse forms. Standard requires action. Brain offers deferral. Fire. You act before you think, not mindlessly, decisively. Because thinking creates space for negotiation, and negotiation kills discipline. Here is how you start. Tomorrow, not eventually. Tomorrow. You have one commitment. Something small, something clear. And when the moment comes, you'll feel resistance. Your brain will generate a reason to defer. That is guaranteed. Here is what changes. You act anyway, not after you feel ready, immediately, before the negotiation completes, before the reason sounds convincing, before comfort seems possible. That is one rep of discipline, not motivation. Commitment kept despite resistance, and the moment you do it, something shifts. Not comfort, proof. Proof that you can keep your word to yourself, even when everything in you wants to break it. At 6 in the morning, the alarm sounds. You committed to waking up. Your body begs for 10 more minutes. The old you negotiated, snoozed, rationalized, that rest was self. Care started the day having already broken your word to yourself. The new you puts feet on the floor before the brain can even form the word, wait. No thinking, just movement. The day starts with proof of discipline, not evidence of weakness. You sit down to work on something difficult. Your brain wants escape, wants to check messages first. Clear your head, just for a moment. The old you complied, opened email, lost 2 hours to low-value distraction while calling it productivity. The new you closes everything, starts the work, feels the resistance without obeying it. Progress happens because you refused the escape. You said you'd train today. Your body feels heavy. Every muscle seems to argue against movement. The old you listened. I am too tired today. I'll go tomorrow when I am fresh. Tomorrow never came. The pattern reinforced itself. The new you moves anyway. Not hard, just moves. The commitment was already made. Strength builds not from the perfect workout, but from refusing to negotiate. You decided no junk food this week. The craving hits, sharp, specific. Your brain immediately. Just this once. You've been good. You deserve this. The old, you agreed. Just this once became the pattern. Control eroded one exception at a time. The new you notices the craving, doesn't obey it. The decision was already made. Control strengthens through resistance honored, not through comfort maintained. Evening arrives. 9 p.m. You committed to no phone after this hour. The urge pulls, just for a few minutes, just to check. The old you complied. Hours disappeared. Sleep suffered. Tomorrow started weak because discipline ended weak. The new you puts the phone away at 9. Discomfort arrives. You sit with it instead of medicating it. Rest comes deeper because discipline held. Here is what changes when you stop negotiating. Your word to yourself becomes solid. Your commitments stop being suggestions. Your discipline stops, depending on feeling. Old you made decisions based on current state. New you executes decisions regardless of current state. Old you negotiated when resistance appeared. New you acts before negotiation completes. This is Musashi's fourth principle. Wind remaining a student. Understanding that discipline is not a destination you reach, it is a practice you deepen daily. The warrior who thinks he has arrived stops sharpening his blade. You don't arrive at discipline, you practice it. Today, tomorrow, forever. And this leads to the fifth principle, void. The state where the internal negotiator goes completely silent, where resistance appears and you don't even hear its argument, where the commitment exists and the action follows automatically. No drama, no internal debate, no space between decision and execution, just void, then movement. This is what discipline becomes when you stop treating it as effort and start embodying it as identity. Almost no one operates this way anymore. This is why the top 1% stay at the top. They don't have better luck. They have better discipline. They keep commitments you are currently calling unrealistic. A blade that cuts through resistance doesn't question the resistance. It moves through it. Your discipline can become the same. People sense it before they understand it. You don't negotiate anymore. Don't defer when things get hard. Don't break your word to yourself. You just commit, then execute, regardless of feeling, and that creates momentum others can't match. Something difficult appears, and you just do it. No drama, no internal debate. They'll ask, how do you stay so disciplined? You won't have a dramatic answer. You just stopped negotiating with yourself. That is it. Commit, execute, no negotiation. Repeat, until discipline became identity, until keeping your word to yourself became non-negotiable, and once you have it, weakness stops controlling you because you've stopped treating commitments as preferences. They're now who you are. The Last Ronin doesn't motivate himself. He decided once, then executes without reconsidering. And what remains is discipline that looks extreme to people who still negotiate. You've seen now what most men never practice. That discipline isn't built through feeling. It is forged through commitment kept, despite resistance. If you see the practice now, subscribe and continue training. The disciplined version of you isn't waiting for better conditions. It was always here. Now you stop negotiating with it.